I am so excited tonight to have this container be set now with Julia Mande and Sutton King from Urban Indigenous Collective and Commonfield. Come on up.
Can we have a round of applause for Marissa and all of the organizers tonight? Really, what an incredible co-created event we have here. Are we good with one mic? Marissa, thank you for organizing. Thank you for your leadership with so much grace. Thank you. Before we begin, I just want to acknowledge that the programming tonight is in English, which is our common language for many of us. And if our grandparents or great-grandparents were in the room, there might be 4 times to 6 times as many languages. So I just want to honor the loss of culture that happens when things become monocultured. And with that.
Poso, Sagoli, Sutton King Naktao, Pinuki Nukats, Ungwahowe, Ni'i, Waknata, Nawagi Talota, Oniota Aga Ni'i. Hello, relatives. My English name is Sutton King. My Menominee name is Naktao Pinuki, which means comes first woman. I'm Afro-Indigenous, and I'm a descendant of the Menominee and Oneida Nations of Wisconsin. And I wanted to say Matchwawainen to everyone here for joining us, and Marissa, and also really want to say Matchwawainen to Julia, my co-founder, for naming that, the language that we're speaking in tonight is English. I've been on a journey of reclaiming my language. I went to early education on the Oneida Reservation, where I learned how to pray and read and count in Oneida. Until I was put in predominantly white schools and I began to lose the language. Currently, my grandmother and I are actually in Oneida language classes on Zoom to relearn the language. And so we're in this process of reclamation, right? And it's liberating to hear my grandmother count in our language. And so I really wanted to open up with a prayer in the Oneida language. It's called the Thanksgiving Address, or the Kanahala Tuskala. And we really begin each day with saying this prayer. We also begin saying this prayer when we come together in ceremony or before feasts, and we always say it at the end of the day to honor all of creation. We begin by really thanking the land, creator, people, and everything within it. So if you could just take a moment and hold space as I read this, because I do not have it memorized at this point in my life. Te tanahala wahat tuhe, okwa hokaha. Te tanahala wala tuhe, yakanala owatsa. Te wanahala tuhe, oket nawatsaha. Te tanahala tuhe, nahat yahatsaka. Te tanahala we tehe, kanat yatso atwanate. Te wanahala tuhe, ya oya kawa owe. Te wanahala tuhe, asha akat tanalate. Te wanahala tuhe, onela shahua. Te tanahala wete, anuk kawat tahoke. Te tanahala tuhe, nayat tahala hatake. Te tanahala tuhe, Nayat tasat tanu wake. Te tanahala tuhe, kuti laya kue. Te wanahala tue, oyet sahataka. Te tanahala tue, o watsalasha. Te tanahala tue, latisha akatse. Te tanahala tehe, suitshawatse, wahala tatle. Te hanahala tule, yoit sahatwata. Te hanawala tuhe, Kae nayat tawek toke. Te hanawala tuhe, skanat la tat yo. Te hanawala tuhe, shanatwa tatisu. Tata teniaka yawatsanakala tanekbo. And so what I said was, we extend our greetings, thankfulness, and love to them, all of the people. We extend our greetings, thankfulness, and love to her, our Mother Earth. We extend our greetings, thankfulness, and love to them, all of the waters. We extend our greetings, thankfulness, and love to them, the different kinds of fish. We extend our greetings, thankfulness, and love to it, the short plants, the strawberry. We extend our greetings, thankfulness, and love to it, the native tobacco. We extend our greetings, thankfulness, and love to them, the three sisters. We extend our greetings, thankfulness, and love to them, the grasses. We extend our greetings, thankfulness, and love to them, all of the medicines. We extend our greetings, thankfulness, and love to them, the different kinds of trees. We extend our greetings, thankfulness, and love to them, the different kinds of insects. We extend our greetings, thankfulness, and love to them, all of the indigenous animals. We extend our greetings, thankfulness, and love to them, all of the birds. We extend our greetings, thankfulness, and love to them, the winds. We extend our greetings, thankfulness, and love to them, the thunderers. We extend our greetings, thankfulness, and love to her, our grandmother, the moon. We extend our greetings, thankfulness, and love to them, our elder brother, the sun, their light provider. We extend our greetings, thankfulness, and love to them, the four beings, the messengers. We extend our greetings, thankfulness, and love to him, the handsome lake. And we extend our greetings, thankfulness, and love to him, the creator. This is how it shall be, our minds. That's it. Machwawainen Yako. And we would be remiss if we did not begin this programming by acknowledging the land that we are currently situated. So I really want to honor that we are situated on the land of Mannahatta, also known as Mannahatta, the traditional lands of the Lenape, also known as the Lenape Hoking. This is the lands of the Mannahattan, the Lenape, the Haudenosaunee, the Shinnecock, the Runkawak, the Munsee, and many, many other ancestors of indigenous peoples who have been on these lands. We honor and we pay respect to their ancestors, past, present, and future, recognizing that this land has always been a place of gathering for intertribal change, really coming to understand each other and co-create solutions to problems that we didn't solve or we didn't create, but are looking to solve. And we offer our deep gratitude and commitment to the land and to the water and to the wind. And as we explore the intersections of psychedelics and the environment, we understand that it is sacred and reciprocal. And it is our greatest importance to honor that we are stewards of this land, and we must be in kinship with one another to protect the land and ensure that it remains in balance.
Hello? Okay, that's still not working. We'll do this. Thank you. Thank you, Sutton. Hi, my name is Julia Mande. I'm a daughter, a sister. What's going on? Hi, guys. Sorry about that. Is this working now? It is really close to your mouth. And now? And now. Guys, this is fun. Okay. Hi, I am Julia Mande. I am a daughter, a sister, a friend, the co-founder of Common Field, a systems thinker, many things. It's amazing to be in a room of co-creating with everyone here. I want to guide us through a grounding and centering. There's going to be a lot of programming and a lot of conversation and a lot of talk, and I know we've already had quite a bit of conversation. So if you can get comfortable in your seat, you can lower your gaze, close your eyes if you'd like. Allow space for a pause. Allow space for silence. Allow space for the chatter. And just tune into your own body and be here now. Drop your body down into the earth. Know that you are being held. You're being held by the earth. Underneath the concrete, underneath the pavement, underneath the scaffolding, underneath the city is the land. You can drop and give anything you need to her in this time. Take a moment, take a breath. And now notice where the air is touching your skin. Notice how your skin feels. And imagine there's a lightness, an effervescence in your body. Feel your spine elongating, drawing towards the cosmos. Whatever cosmology you hold, what is happening in the sky tonight is the moon is looking directly at the sun, and our luminaries are bowing to each other in eclipse. I invite you now to hold a vision in your mind's eye, a vision of what healthy feels like, what health feels like in your body, in your being, in your neighbor's body, the person next to you. In your mind's eye, hold what true health feels like. Extend that out to the city around us. Extend that out to the land and to the waters. What does a healthy, vibrant land smell like? What does healthy water feel like? As we come back into ourselves, you might feel a tension between that vision of health and the mundane of embodiment now. And that tension is what makes us human. We are able to dream, and we are also able to work incrementally, day by day, towards the dream. So this place of harmony, this place of equanimity is what Common Fields is about. We're inspired by the quote, "Out beyond ideas of wrongdoings and right doings, there is a field. I'll meet you there." And I love this poem by Rumi because that "I'll meet you there" is what excites me about this work. We're meeting each other where we are, and we are dimensional beings. So we have our cognitive strategic minds. We have our physical wellness and our physical being. And we also have our somatic and emotional state. And we have our spiritual or ancestral guidance. And if that doesn't speak to you, you can see it as your motivation. And so we're these four dimensions always happening at the same time. So when I meet you and you meet me, it's not 1 + 1, it's 4 times 4. So 1 + 1 = 16. That's psychedelic math. We're going to speak a little bit more about what we do at Common Fields, and I'm going to pass it over to my co-founder here to share how it came about.
So as I was introduced, I'm also the co-founder of Urban Indigenous Collective, and I was formerly the program officer and manager of the Indigenous Medicine Conservation Fund, serving on the operations committee for 2.5 years. And the Indigenous Medicine Conservation Fund, if you're not aware of the work or the organization, was really co-created as a high-impact fund, an Indigenous-led fund, supporting the bioculture conservation of ayahuasca, iboga, mushrooms, peyote, and toad, really supporting traditional Indigenous territorial leaders to be able to support their own conservation in the way they see fit. As we know, the world's biodiversity, 80% of it is stewarded by Indigenous peoples. And this work was really done through listening on the ground, which is really important. And I think a theme you'll hear throughout the work of not only the fund, Common Field, but also Urban Indigenous Collective. And so these community-based needs assessments really supported this Indigenous-led governance and really this shift in philanthropy in the way we are thinking about a bottom-up approach, right? These assessments allowed us to understand the needs of the keystone medicines and these bioculture conservations on the ground so that we could understand the investment really necessary to be able to support these communities and protecting their medicines, which we know are experiencing ecological threat as we are in the 6th degree of extinction right now. And so this really was eye-opening to me and really exciting to be a part of something like this where we can look at money as good medicine, the way in which we're using it, right? And so this journey really taught us a few lessons that we learned. One, we went in with this assumption that the fund could also be used as a vehicle to support reciprocity, right? I'm sure if you're involved in the psychedelic space, we've heard this word thrown around a lot. And we were really looking at what benefit sharing could really mean for the fund. But we really realized, and really listening to the partners on the ground and having these deep dialogues, that the psychedelic ecosystem was moving light years ahead in speed in comparison to the slow and deeply intentional and considerate way Indigenous peoples are making decisions about their stances on these medicines. So we quickly realized that the fund was not going to be a good place, as we really needed to focus on fundraising, one, and also the demands of these benefit sharing agreements. There's a lot of time that goes into it. At this time where we were having these conversations, I was asked to attend the World's Economic Forum alongside our traditional Indigenous partners, which was a deep honor. And this is where I met Julia, and we began to plant seeds and dreams of what we could co-create together. And thus this vision and common field was really born. We began working on a field guide that is really going to support the psychedelic ecosystem in understanding what true access and benefit sharing is, the Convention on Biological Diversity and access and benefit sharing, which Julia will talk about more in depth. But I really wanted to give the context on how Common Field came about, because I think it's really important when we are wanting to co-create new organizations or movements, that it's really coming from what we're hearing in our kinship circles in community and not based on our own assumptions of what is necessary, right? And Julia, I'd love for you to share more about Common Field and how it's really bridging this gap that we're seeing within the psychedelic ecosystem as well as bioculture conservation.
Thank you. So we were asked to put our attention onto this by coalitions of traditional medicine communities and their representatives, because the psychedelic space needs the infrastructure for international protocols, legal protocols, to protect and conserve their rights and their rights to their medicine. And so I've been tracking, we're in a paradigm shift now, right? We're in this immense moment of change. We're unlearning old patterns, and we are creating new patterns. And part of the way I've been tracking this paradigm shift is through these international protocols to protect the rights of Indigenous people. And what is pretty ridiculous is that most of these legal frameworks are very new. So integrating Indigenous rights into modern legal frameworks, for example, UNDRIP, the United Nations Declarations of the Rights of Indigenous People, was signed in 2007, right? So we are the ones who actually get to implement how these frameworks are going to work in an industry and in a space. And there is a lot of amazing work that is being done in other industries. I've been speaking to people working in cosmetics and agriculture and fashion, because they are also looking to protect the rights of nature. They're looking to protect the biodiversity of their source material. And as Sutton spoke about the keystone medicine, so are we in this industry. And there's a lot of work that needs to be done to organize around this. Let's see. Yeah. I have a quote from the Ford Foundation, which shows you Sutton spoke about 80% of the world's biodiversity is stewarded with Indigenous cultures. And from the Ford Foundation, I got a quote. While Indigenous people claim customary rights to more than half of the planet, including lands and forests, governments have acknowledged their legal right to use only 18% worldwide. And so there's a big disconnect to what is needed to steward ecological diversity. And just to bring it down to some practical, when I was a child, I grew up in Southern Africa in Zimbabwe. And in 2020, I had the opportunity, I was learning about regenerative agriculture. My background is in regenerative agriculture. And I had the opportunity to go to Zimbabwe to learn and to really walk with the cattle for 2 months and see how water systems and soil was being regenerated based on these patterns, these regenerative ecological frameworks and principles. And I saw it working. I saw rivers coming back, the Dimbagombe River, and there were a lot of people that were naysayers in the local community. And then just recently, I think this was Monday, I read that one of the government agencies has decided to cull 200 elephants because there's immense drought and food shortages. And so there's a huge disconnect between what is needed and what we have, what the knowledge we have around regenerative systems, and what is actually happening on the ground with local communities. And so there are all these protocols to protect local communities, to bring it back to the space. What's relevant is to start with a process of consent. So when Sutton talked about access and benefit sharing, this is a protocol under the Nagoya Protocol, which is under the Convention of Biological Diversity. If you want to nerd out about these things, please come talk to me. I'm not going to, kind of overwhelm you with that information now. But there are three main principles of that, where it starts with Indigenous communities have the right to grant access, and therefore they have the right to deny access to the use of their traditional medicines. And so any company, any person, any facilitator who's working with these medicines, and obviously it's different with different scopes, right? So these protocols are not perfect. But when there's profit being made, there has to be a consideration and a consensual process. That consensual process then leads to mutually agreed terms. And what we're doing at Common Field is working with lawyers and business communities to make sure that people from the West are aware of the underlying biases and power dynamics that are at play when creating terms, right? Because it can't be mutually agreed if we're not surfacing some of these unseen biases or social norms from the West that are very different from when you're working with local communities on the ground. And then the final stage of that is benefit sharing, which can look a lot of different ways. Reciprocity is not charity, it is an interrelated relationship. And so we hope that the paradigm shift is shifting something that looks like a supply chain into a supply web, a web of interconnected relationships. And so we're building Common Field as a values-based organization to protect biodiversity. Sutton here has been leading the Urban Indigenous Collective and really leading her business in a values-based way. And I'd love for you to share more about the Urban Indigenous Collective. And I also want to congratulate you on 5 years of stewarding that baby.
Machuenen, Yako. Yes, so first I want to just kind of give some context on my background. I'm an Indigenous rights activist. I'm a social entrepreneur. I began my activism in Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, inner city, where I really learned how to create social justice campaigns. And that's really where I was able to transmute a lot of the pain I was feeling, experiencing the impact of settler colonization while watching my family live on a reservation, right? And I moved to New York when I was 18 years old to pursue a degree in psychology with a minor in sociology and became a research assistant. And my first question when coming to New York City was, where is Indian Health Service? Raise your hand if you know what Indian Health Service is. Okay, not too many folks here. It is the federal agency that is tasked with providing free health care to Native Americans or Alaskan Natives within the United States. So we were born with a right to free health care, which we all should be. It's very similar to the VA in terms of its structure. But I really realized that that was an issue, that the closest Indian Health Service was 4 hours away from New York City on the Oneida Reservation, whereas 180,000 urban Indigenous peoples live within the 5 boroughs. So a clear gap in critical culturally tailored healthcare, right? So I began to really co-create the Urban Indigenous Collective with my co-founder, Dr. Ariel Richer, and it's been incredible to really be able to co-create something that comes from community voice. Once we launched on Randall's Island on Indigenous People Days 5 years ago, on Indigenous Peoples Day this year, with about $1,500 basically from my mom that afforded us a pop-up table and a tent. And we had something that was so invaluable, which was our community-based needs assessment, which was the first time our community was being directly asked about their health priorities. And from there, we really had to sit down and listen and understand how we could be additive to our community and not competitive, right? How we could really fill the gaps. And with that, we were able to understand the need for a community center and access to mental health services for Indigenous peoples. Fast forward today, we now have a community center that we opened last year in Midtown Manhattan on 39th and 8th. We're doing community-based participatory research, advocacy, programming, and now we're working on implementing direct services. And we're really excited about this, and it's really a moment for urban Indigenous peoples here in so-called New York City. But at this intersection of psychedelics and mental health, I've begun noticing that Indigenous peoples are being left out of the conversation. And we are researchers, right? We are business leaders. We are stewards of this work that we do. But more importantly, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, right, had to fight for the right for us to be able to access plant medicines, right? It wasn't until 1978, through the American Indian Religious Freedom Act, that we actually had the legal right to sit in our ceremonies, have access to our medicines. My great-grandfather actually was at Carlisle Indian Boarding School, where that mantra was, "Kill the Indian, save the man." And so with all of this in mind, we began thinking about ways in how we can center community-based participatory research within psychedelic research. And so we are partnering with University of Utah to really look at the attitudes and assess the beliefs and understanding of psychedelics and plant medicines with urban Indigenous natives. And we're really excited about this because it's going to allow us to understand the baseline knowledge that urban natives have around psychedelics and plant medicines. It's going to allow us to create culturally tailored education. And it's also going to allow us to inform the protocols that are being created to really train therapists in psychedelic-assisted therapy. So we're really excited about that. And at the same time, we're also developing and working with the New York City Department of Health and Mental Hygiene to become certified in being able to provide direct services, which is our first step in being able to meet this critical gap. And so it's really an honor to do this work. It's actually a privilege to be able to do this work. And I'm really thankful to, our partners and our allies who allow us to continue doing this. Julia, if you want to share.
So as we're wrapping things up, the two things that we really want you to take away is that many times action starts with listening, starts with understanding the needs of all stakeholders. It is a slower process. It is a necessary process, and it's an investment in long-term sustainable growth. And the second thing to take away is that we move at the speed of health. In a chaotic world, there's this idea of manufactured urgency, especially around climate action, and making sure that our nervous systems are in a place of harmony and making sure that we are co-regulating our nervous system with the land herself. That's how we move forward, and it can be a slower process. It's absolutely necessary, and we move at the speed of health. So passing it back to you for any call to action.
Well, shamelessly, please donate to Common Field.
And we are commonfield.community because this is really a calling in of professionals in the space who want to be in community together, practicing these values together. And everyone is working individually in really amazing projects. And these are spaces where we can come together and co-regulate together.
And as Julia highlighted, it will be the 5th year anniversary of the Urban Indigenous Collective. And we will be celebrating that here on October 14th on Indigenous Peoples Day. So I invite you all to join us here. We'll have Indigenous performers, spiritualists, Indigenous foods, and vendors. It's going to be an incredible night, really celebrating our indigeneity. So we would be honored to have everyone in this room also in that room in a month. So really appreciate just you all welcoming us in this energy and allowing us to share our purpose work that really comes from our heart and honoring that kinship that connects all of us. Also, I will say if you're not able to make it on Indigenous Peoples Day that Saturday before, there'll be an Indigenous Peoples Day celebration happening on Randall's Island. Over 5,000 people come, and we'll actually be celebrating the 10th anniversary. And it's an amazing gathering for 48 hours, really again celebrating our connection to land, water, spirit, and community.
Thank you. Thank you very much.